My name is Sean Riley. I am a guitar player, singer-songwriter. Name of my band is Sean Riley and the Water.
All right. And where did you grow up, Sean?
I grew up in upstate New York, a little town called Saratoga Springs, New York.
Yeah. And you've had albums leading up to the one you're about to drop now?
Yep. I have one EP I released in late 2019 under the name Old Riley and the Water. Mm-hmm. And that was a 7-song EP, a couple original songs and some collaboration and a couple covers. But that record's called Biting Through. That's up on Spotify and all that.
Gotcha. Yeah. And not to pigeonhole your artistry or anything, but if you had to describe to people that are not familiar with your music, how would you say it feels, or what would you say?
I would say it's really heavily blues and roots influenced, a little Americana as well, but really heavy on the blues and roots stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah. When you were growing up, your parents, what kind of music were they listening to? Like, what's the first music that you remember hearing?
A lot of old 1950s stuff, a lot of Roy Orbison, a lot of Beach Boys. A lot of Paul Simon. As a New Yorker, so everybody loves Paul Simon up there.
Sure.
Stuff like that, pretty much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a self-taught musician. My folks, they didn't play or anything, but they were very supportive of what I did. But I taught myself around the age of 15 or so.
So I was going to ask, how early on did it start for you?
15, 16 years old. I started getting into it.
What sparked it for you then? What made you want to pursue it?
I don't know. I think I just really, at first, being so young, like, I remember going to, there was this old guitar shop in my hometown, and I just loved the way they looked, man. I loved the look of an SG, Angus Young and all that. It was just like, wow, it's so cool. What is that, And I started really thinking about it, and I had this old guitar, which is actually hanging up in my living room it was my aunt's from I think 1965. It's an old Stella. And she had gifted it to me, so I didn't know how to play it. I was just messing around, But and then I think I finally went to one of my first shows, kind of an intimate show, and saw the blues for real, and that really just got me. I was just hooked from that. But about the age of 16 or so, just thought it was super cool. I liked the whole look, and I loved the Blues Brothers and all that growing up. And that was fun. Yeah. I came up on rock and roll and jam bands, and seeing the Allman Brothers since I was 10 years old, it was one of my first shows. So it was in there. Yeah, they used to play my hometown every year, every summer they'd come up. And it just kind of, it just really stuck with me, that sound. Slide sound, sure. I played a lot of slide guitar, and that was just something hit with me with that. And it never stopped going away, even though I got into punk rock music, hip hop music, and all sorts of different stuff, because as you do as a kid, and you should, But that blues stuff just always stuck with me. It just always was that constant vein there, and I was always trying to figure it out. And I'm still trying to figure it out.
Sure.
I'll never figure it out, but it kind of became a lifelong love of blues records and roots records, Americana, country music too. As I love old country stuff. My folks listen to a lot of Willie. Waylon Jennings and that, and I love that growing up too. So that old kind of Americana thing just started, and I don't know, I think it was, it was just kind of a little bit of a burning desire, what we were talking about before. Just
Sure.
I really had to learn it and figure it out, as much as I could. And I stumbled, it was hard. I did finally get lessons, and I finally sort of figured it out, and then I'll still take lessons every once in a while. A lesson is just watching somebody play. I'll go watch some of these insane players in town. I just sit there, and that, to me, is a lesson. I'm like, "Whoa, I got something out of that,"
Yeah. When you were young and you were listening to this music with a fledgling interest of actually doing it yourself,
mm-hmm.
Were you listening to it through the lens of a musician? Not so much that you were or were not a musician just yet, but were you listening in particular to the guitar parts? Did it?
Oh yeah, I wanted to play it.
Yeah.
I wanted to be, every time we had this really big amphitheater in my hometown, and like I said, all my brothers, the Dead would come every year, and everything, Steely Dan, all sorts of crazy stuff would come by, and Janet Jackson, whatever was playing, I'd go and see, and I just always wanted to be on the stage, It was like, that definitely hit me early on.
Yeah.
But it was also like, how am I going to figure that out? How am I going to do that right? You know. So I had a long journey with it. You know, I made sure I was comfortable and confident enough to start playing my own stuff. You know. And that didn't happen until my 30s, man.
Yeah, I was about to say.
I didn't even close. I mean, I played I played in like bands and, you know, a lot of funk bands, because I was trying to learn rhythm. That was the thing. I had a teacher that said, if you don't know rhythm, you don't know shit. Like, you got to have your rhythm down, get your right hand going, you know, with the rhythm, and and really stick to that beat. And really, so I feel I needed to learn that before I like really could find myself with it. And, you know, it was the whole thing.
Sure.
Yeah.
And as far as the aesthetics went, you just liked the gleam of the guitar. You weren't looking at any of the glitz that comes with the lifestyle of being a musician. Like, you didn't mention it, so it didn't jump out at you.
Yeah, not too much. I mean, I read all the books of, like, you know, from the Keith Richards book to Slash book to, you know, I'm reading the Lemmy book right now, and it's, you know, I love reading about their lifestyles. It's hilarious. And
sure.
You know, I never saw myself like that. I was always like, I know I'm not going to be a rock star, superstar, and that's okay, but I love reading about it, and I do have that, like, you know, idolize some of that stuff.
Well, sure, you live vicariously through their eyes.
I love it. I love all things rock and roll, really, and that means blues, too. So, but for me, it was like, man, how do I get that sound, that tone? How do I figure that out? You know, like, what guitar is going to make me have that sound or feel good? So, I'm a guitar nerd that's not too techie.
Sure.
You know, I don't know, like, I couldn't tell you a ton of technological stuff, but I love guitars. You know, and I obviously have a good amount of them.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was just it started from a love of the instrument, for sure.
Yeah.
And then it was like, well, hell, I got to learn how to sing because I'm by myself. You know,
out of necessity, sure.
Yeah, it was kind of out of necessity, and I always enjoyed singing, and you know, but that's a whole other thing. It's just still learning that and practicing that, doing that right is a lifelong thing.
Yeah. So when you plugged in your aunt's guitar, how far off base were you from what you were hearing and trying to be sounding?
Well, I had no pickups. This is an old Stella. It's an old parlor guitar. But you know, it was so I didn't know how to tune it. And I was just like, you know, because we didn't have the whatever they call them, those little tuners you plug on the
sure.
We didn't have those back then. It was like, it was tuning to a piano, you know, and I didn't have anything. No, so I had to learn from. I bought one of those old little harmonica. That looks like a harmonica. It's got little tubes, and it's, you blow you blow the E, and I would tune it and. And that's when I got my first lesson. Was like, all right, I got to learn how to tune the damn thing, you know. And that's. But when I first picked it up, I loved the feel of it. You know, I would just, you know, obviously like sit and look. Oh, it looks cool, man. It's always definitely a look cool sort of thing. Who doesn't pick up the guitar and want to look cool? Like
at 15, 16, did it fit you?
Yeah, I feel like it did. You know, I feel like it did. And when I started to learn my first chords and stuff, and like I have my buddies over, I'd still play, and they'd be like, damn, man, that's really good. You know, even though I was playing like, you know, this Smoke on the Water or whatever, like Layla, you know, simple stuff. Like, well,
sure.
Layla's simple, but just like really easy riffs and stuff. And that gave me a lot of like, all right, I can do this, man, you know. So it definitely fit after that. And then soon after, I got an electric guitar. And it was all over. I was just constantly making all sorts of racket in the basement.
Yeah.
That stuff, you know.
How were you said at some point you did receive lessons, but how were you pursuing it prior to getting lessons? Did you have tab books or anything?
I think, I got tab books. I mean, that first lesson I think I got was sort of court-ordered lesson by my dad. He's just like, you're getting a lesson, otherwise you're not going to, you know, we don't want to buy you this thing, and you know, it's sit in the closet sort of situation. So I got like maybe one or two lessons that were just like really basic, kind of. But I fell out of love with that. I was like, nah, I can do this on my own. I can figure this out. I was figuring stuff out in my ear. I'm like, this sounds right. So I'd have to keep going and playing it. But to get the fundamentals down, I read this. I had this big, I still have it, you know, these books I had when I was a kid. It's called the Guitar Grimoire or something. You know, and it just taught you how to, in writing, and I bought videos. You know, we did have VHS back then. This is like, you know, mid '90s or late '90s or whatever. But like, I did have like DVDs I could throw in and learn too from video. You know what I mean? So I did a lot of that. But what I mean self-taught is just like I would sit for hours and hours, you know, and just try to learn one thing, or you know, and stick to it. You know.
Where were the DVDs coming from? This is instructional pieces,
just
or
from Tower Records or whatever.
Okay,
you know,
anywhere.
like just wherever I would buy them. Yeah, any record store would have them, but they were all like, yeah, very very basic instruction stuff, and you know, I'd also hear I would go see a lot of music, and I would watch people play kind of up close. Either be like, you know, a pub or something, watching an Irish band play, you know.
That was school.
That was school, man. I would just sit and watch that, you know, and I would, and I had other friends that played too, and they would I would watch them play, you know. They'd be just starting out too, and be like, wow, that's really cool. And so that's how you learn. You learn by watching and hanging out with other people. Always go hang out with your friends and play music if you can. It really brings it all together, and it makes you feel less, you know, timid. You know, I spent a lot of time just like, I'd play the guitar in my bedroom and I'd put it away. I wouldn't do anything else. You know, I wouldn't go out and show it around. Didn't want to seem like a show off, or I didn't think I was that good. That's really what
it's hard when you don't have anything to gauge against. Like, where am I supposed to be at this point, or how does this sound to others?
Exactly. All I was doing was just watching videos and watching and reading some books on it, and that was all I could listen to records.
Yeah.
You know, but I finally got a handle on things, and then I did some theory stuff, and I had to get the basic theory down to be able to play in bands, and that's kind of how the whole thing started, you know, came about.
I don't know why it popped in my head while you were talking about DVDs, but I've got one. I don't even know where I found it. It might have been like a flea market or something. But it's River Phoenix interviewing Flea.
Nice.
And it's like the corniest fake brick wall background with like a fake graffiti and some balled up pieces of paper, you know, and there's awkward silences, and they're only interrupted by like, you know, wire feedback noise and shit. It's very weird, but but Flea goes on to describe his style of music, and he sounds like an astronaut, dude. He's just talking about like cosmic exploration and all this shit.
I can only imagine.
But it doesn't matter what he says, because then when he gets up and speaks with that guitar, you're just like,
it's unreal, man.
That's it. So cool. It smooths out all the rough edges as soon as he starts getting down on it, man.
One of the first ones I got was a Warren Haynes DVD, the guitar player for Allman Brothers for many years. It was kind of awkward. You could tell he was kind of awkward in front of the camera. He was like, you know, and he had a really hard time. He was good at it, but like it was, you know, but then he was like, okay, we're going to try this. And it was just, you know, I'm like, like just kind of went, whoa.
Yeah.
You know. So, yeah, it's cool. I still love watching videos. I mean, you know, I steer clear a lot of the YouTube stuff because it's all just not great. But, you know, there is some, it's very helpful to do that. I think anyone that's learning, do that. You know, don't spend too much time on the wormhole, but do it and then put it away and learn on your, like, learn and listen too. Like, listen to records. I mean, that's where you're going to get your own sound.
Sure.
Otherwise, you're just going to sound like someone else, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you definitely have to develop your own sound.
Yeah.
How were you socially as a kid? Well, I mean, was it easy in social situations? Did you prefer to be alone?
I was I feel like I was a shy kid.
Okay.
You know, but I had a lot of buddies. I had a lot of friends, and they were, you know, it wasn't. But in those situations, I was kind of shy. So the guitar was a way for me to speak.
That's where I was going.
Yeah. You know what I mean? It was a way I could sit and be like, hey, you guys, I learned this, you know, little Zeppelin lick or something. And they'd be like, wow, that's really fucking cool. And keep going with it. And they were all really encouraging, which was really sweet.
Yeah.
You know, and I never had anyone say, oh, you're terrible, don't do that. They were always like, dude, that sounds cool. Keep it up. Like, you got something.
Yeah.
And that kind of, like, helped me out. It really did. It was positive reinforcement, you know. I mean, I definitely had some band tryouts where they were like, "No way, you know, you're terrible," and I was like, "Okay."
Well, look,
and that hurts too. But you know, when you have a good, I guess, you know, I had a small group of friends in a small town kind of thing, and you know, I don't remember anything where it was like don't ever do that. It's terrible. You know, it's
I was
just
about to
keep
say,
going,
look, man, snobs aren't hard to find in music.
Yeah.
You know? Music, any kind of art form. You know,
anything, man. Oh yeah. So
I'm glad you were able to dodge that.
I think I will. Yeah, I think overall, you know, I think it was yeah. Okay.
And at 15 or 16 too, I mean, as far as I remember, kids aren't too critical of who they hang out with. If you live in the same neighborhood, you just kind of together, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
so
exactly. And you know, my buddies were getting into music too as well, so we'd have that. And then I had other friends that weren't more into sports and stuff, and I was doing that too. So it was like, you know, I just kind of did my own thing. Really, I was always in my room trying to play. I was always trying to figure it out.
You said you had some friends that were playing that you could.
Yeah, man, we got a little
out.
Jam band. You know,
that's what I was going to ask. So I mean, when
someone
does that
came
start?
over. You know, much to my parents' surprise, someone came over with a drum kit one time. Put the drum kit up, put the bass amps and the amp up, and in the basement, and just started rocking. But they were kind of cool. They're like, you know, just don't do it at midnight. But
yeah,
they let it happen, and that was the most like, all right, this is the coolest. That was the coolest thing when I first played with a drum out. I'll never forget that feeling, first playing with a drum and bass, even though we were all very, very novice. I even played some drums too early on too, and in a little basement band as well, just because I wanted to figure that out too. You know,
sure.
I did have that love for that, but quickly went back to the guitar, and yeah, that feeling was just I still get that. I still get that feeling when we kick off and the drum,
awesome.
Everybody hits. It's just like it's such a cool feeling, and that's what will always be. Even with like, you know, the nervousness of the gig or setting up is always a pain in the ass. Setting your amp up, making sure the sound is right. You know, that stuff is just like so annoying to me and it's frustrating. Sometimes it's why does this mic not work? You know, what's wrong with my amp?
Oh, trust me, I love electrical problems because the symptom is the same no matter what's going on. It does not work.
It does not
work.
Go
figure it out.
Go figure it out.
Yeah.
You know, but once that's like all taken care of, then it's like 1, 2, 3, kick, and you're like, you know, and playing in New Orleans, man, has been, you know, that'll always keep you going because I play with a lot of different people. You know, the name of the band, Sean Riley, and the water. The meaning for the water is that I constantly have a flowing band behind me of different people.
Okay.
Different drummer, I usually have a drum and bass situation, couple teams that I call, because I want a bass player or a drummer that wants a certain bass player, you know, that kind of thing. If I can do it. But a lot of times, I'm walking on stage and I'm meeting the bass player.
Okay.
For the first time, or I'm playing with him for the first time. Same thing with the drums.
Does that add to or detract from your experience?
I mean, it detracts from like me like getting into my own shit because we just play straight up like blues numbers and like groovy shit.
Something
you know?
he knows.
Yeah, something he knows. You know, it's just like, all right, man, keep on here's the beat. You know, I'm gonna kick it off on the 1. Just come in with me, and then we'll figure out changes and all that. So, but it's happened a lot. I've had gigs where both the drummer and the bass player don't know each other, and I don't know either of them. So like I was kind of, I don't know, I was thinking about a name for the band and, you know, that sort of thing. I'm sort of always it's always different people playing with me. But at the same time, I do have a crew that I've been playing with for like, 7, 8 years.
I like it though. It doesn't have a negative connotation. It just is, you know?
Yeah, it's just what it is. Yeah, exactly. But it also says, I know there's a lot of guys in New Orleans that do that as well. You're picking up gigs every once in a while. And I just picked up a gig last night. I just woke up, someone's like, hey, I need you to jump in there. And sometimes you don't know who you're gonna get. You don't have this, you call the guy, that you'd want at first because they know the whole set, they know your song. Sometimes they ain't available on a day's notice or hour's notice. Yeah. So you're just you're calling whomever, and that's I love that because it's a good community of people and you meet people. Everybody's pretty damn good too, so they can do that. Especially drummers in this town, they can kind of. You get the right one, they can do whatever. I
tell you what, man, there's a lot of hired guns, if you will. There's a lot of people that are also fluid in their own right because they move between several bands regularly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I've discovered that. I don't know any other place, so I don't have anything to really compare it to. I don't know if that differs in different music circles and scenes, but down here, there's a lot of it. And, I'm sure it's probably for the best. It's healthy. It keeps things...
I think so.
It keeps things different.
It keeps people working, too, and it keeps... I seldom say no to a gig. I actually never do if I can do it.
Sure.
You know, so I'll figure it out. If they want a band, I got a list of numbers.
Yeah, that's good.
Call, you know, and
that's good.
And that's how it goes. But
so your jam band and that first moment, and where do you move from there? By the way, I mean, it must have been so nice to have a basement to be in, to be able to practice. We don't enjoy basements down here.
I know, you're right. I was just gonna say,
There's no hiding
basement.
the
Everybody's like,
sound.
what are you talking about, basement?
Right? Yeah.
Well, this is when I lived way up north. Like it was, it was like one of the split level homes. Like it had like the garage was above. I don't know, but we just had enough room, just enough space.
Yeah.
And I cleared out some stuff, and it was just enough room to kind of squeeze in there. You know. But,
sure. And did it turn into a regular?
I mean, not really. It did and it didn't, because it didn't really turn into anything from there, to be honest, if I can recall. I don't really it was more just a hang, you know, and we would do it once in a while, and I was excited. I remember being really excited and wanting to do something, but like the bass player was like, I'm terrible, I can't do this, and I'm like, all right, and he kind of fell out of form with it, and same with the drummer, you know. So from there, I don't know. I went back to my bedroom and just tried to learn as much as I could.
Yeah.
You know, and didn't really have a clue of what the hell I was gonna do with it, but I know I really loved doing it.
I think it's interesting that, I mean, you're flying blind, right? And you're a kid. You're just trying to figure things out. But I think it's interesting that you knew that first things first, I got to figure out how to tune this. Like, you knew some of the essentials that might not occur to everyone, especially when there's no voice.
I knew I needed to learn chords and, you know, all
right.
that,
There's no voice guiding them, and you're figuring that out as you go along. So,
Right.
I mean, it seems like you had an artist sensibility early on, perhaps. You know?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, no, that's a good way to think of it. Like, I did want to, just didn't sound right, you know, and didn't sound like what it sounded like on that record or in that video. I'm like, how are they doing that? What is going on with that? Why is it so much different than what I'm doing? You know? Yeah. So I was just, that was my driving force, was just trying to learn. That's how I learned, you know, and I guess, and I should have probably found another teacher that I liked, you know? Yeah. But I don't know. For some reason, I was getting along fine with the little tab books and the DVDs, and it just sort of said, I'm just going to keep on this thing, you know? And then I went to college, and I met a lot of other, you know, more seasoned musicians, you know, kids that have been playing a lot longer and playing, you know, jazz players and stuff like that. And they taught me a lot. Yeah. So I would sit with them. Mm-hmm. I always had this little idea in my head, always play with people that are better than you, and I still do that today. Absolutely. Always. I try to hire the best drummer that, like, you know, or best bass player or guitar player or whatever, because you play up, man. You play up to them, you know, and I really love that. Sometimes I'm sweating because I'm like, oh man, it sets the bar. Is this any good, man? Is this any good, you know? But like, and then afterwards they're like, yeah, it was fun, let's do it again. You're like, okay. Yeah, you pass muster. So that's kind of been a motto of mine, like growing up, and still, hell, man, always play with people that you admire and are better than you, you know, like. Sure. I got a band, these guys that I play with, you know, and all of them are, I feel like, better musicians than I am. But that's my feeling, and I'm not saying that it doesn't mean that they actually are, whatever. It's just my feeling is that I admire this person. I can learn from them. You know, it opens your ears on stage when you're playing, because you know, if you're a singer, it's your song. You have a tendency to just focus the tunnel vision, like I got to sing this song right and everything, and that is cool, and you should, but also you got to lean back and you got to keep these ears open and making sure you're on pitch, because if you ain't on pitch, if you ain't listening to the drummer and bass and you're singing too fast or too slow or too loud or whatever, then you're not listening to dynamics. Sure. You know? So that's kind of been a motto of mine. Probably for every musician, you know.
I want to revisit that one thing that you were talking about, stepping back and listening, but I wanted to ask you, shortly before college or while you were in college, what was marking progress in your mind? Was it mastering whatever you just saw on the DVDs and VHS tapes that you saw?
Yeah, it was playing along with records.
Okay.
It was like, man, that's like a little part in that Cream song. I think I got it. Like, I think it's what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, I had no video of that shit, but I was like, that's what Clapton is doing. It probably wasn't, but it was like, I think that's it. That sound, man, wow. I think that's how he's doing it. And, you know, and I try to like, Guitar Magazine and all that shit. You know, you go out, I remember going and looking and seeing like, learn Sunshine of Your Love or something like that.
Sure.
And I'd grab that thing, just be like, try to tab it out, be like, wow. Like, I didn't know the scales yet. But I was like trying to figure it out. So the next thing for me was I need scales. I need to learn how to do scales. And then, you know, in college I started playing with a couple guys that were much more New Theory. They could play piano. They could play, you know, and so I will never forget a friend of mine saying to me, "You're a really good guitar player, but you're a good guitar player, but if you had theory, you'd be really good." Mm-hmm. And I was like, that stuck with me. I said, all right, I got to learn theory. So I had to learn the basic, you know, that fundamental of it before I could.
And what is
walk.
that? Is that like 6-7 years into playing?
Let's see. That would be only like 2 or 3. I think I started really like got my first guitar when I was like, I guess 16.
Okay.
Little electric guitar, and then I turned 18, went to school, and I bought a 73 SG because I had to have it. I bought this like cool 73 SG, and never forget it, man. I wish I still had that damn thing. It's probably worth so much now. I sold it or bought it for nothing. It was a little trashed out, but I just wanted that sound. I wanted that big heavy neck. I always like the big fat baseball bat necks, and that old vintage sound. You know, I was kind of really into that.
Yeah.
So I bought that, and I think it had been like 2 or 3 years into playing is when I was like, okay, I got to learn some real basic stuff, and it you know,
that's not a big span of time, though. I mean,
no,
it seems like you were
really
moving right along. You know?
Yeah, I think so. I guess when you think about it, to me, I felt like it took me so long not until I was about my early 20s is where I actually learned real theory, and I could actually read. So I could do some sight reading, I could notate, and you know, I could play with others in speaking of the ones and the 4s and the 5s and the 7s and the 2s.
Yeah.
I could do that comfortably. Was in my like early 20s. So, you know, it took a while. I mean, it took from a couple years, I guess, of that.
I think it's more based on how badly you wanted it. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
that
'Cause
was
if you
it.
didn't care about it, you'd be like, oh, I'm already doing this.
You're
you
totally
know?
right, man. And that was it. I really did want it. I really was, damn, I want to get to that next step. I'm still like that. I'm still like, I got to get to the next level in my head.
Yeah.
I got to learn this, you know, different thing or you know, I'm a kind of player, like I'm not a technical person. Not a technical player at all. I'm kind of sloppy and bluesy and all that, which I love. I love that chant, like that Keith Richards style of playing is, you know, it's more soulful than anything.
Sure.
However, I miss a note, I'm like, I want to, you know, it sticks with me. It sticks with me, and if I have a bad show or I miss like, you know, a bunch of notes,
yeah,
I'm annoyed. I come home angry,
yeah,
you know, at myself. So
sure, you need the pick of destiny. Was that Jack Black? That's what you need. You don't even have to give it a second thought. So you were talking about kind of stepping back and listening to the sound, and popped in my head a recent interview that I did, and this was like a Zen aha moment for this guy.
Yeah,
he's on stage with a prominent blues harp player of the Chicago blues vein, and he's watching, Johnny Reed was the guy's name. He's touring with Johnny Reed, and he's watching Johnny play. And sometimes they'd be at huge festivals. Sometimes they'd be in something a little smaller indoors.
Yeah.
But he watches Johnny while Johnny is apparently listening to how the stage resonates with his harmonica and using the stage as part of an extension of his self, an instrument. And I'm like, this sounds like you're tripping on mushrooms, dude,
right?
You know? And
the vibrations on your feet.
Right. So, but I mean, can you imagine, you're in front of thousands of people,
man.
But you're having this totally separate experience while thousands of people watch you. And that, music is already magic to me already. Like it's some kind of sacred, geometry or something.
Sure
But
thing, man.
on top of that, I can't even imagine realizing that's what's going on. Like, how in the moment would you have to be to pick up on this alternate dialogue? Like, just some crazy
I know.
shit.
I mean, yeah, it's like a slower reflex sometimes some of these players have. They can kind of sense it. They don't get, there's no uppityness. They kind of probably are super laid back and
Not
like,
at all.
I'm feeling this right now, and like that is cool. Like I've caught that a couple times with good bands, you know, or even on my own, you know, like when you're performing in front of people, it's like, oh wow, all right, this is it. It's like riding a wave.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't surf or nothing, but
Well, I mean, there's no
but it's
handles.
like just
there's no handles.
Yeah, man.
It takes you with it, and you
coasting.
stick with it until you're not.
You're coasting, but you're still on it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not just like fucking off, and you're just coasting on it, man. But you're still tight with it. That's cool as hell. I've never heard that, but that sounds about right. You know?
Right. I wonder
Especially
if he was levitating
There's
or
probably
something.
so much like crazy vibrations coming from that.
It really is.
You know, that's such an ethereal instrument. I love that instrument.
Yeah.
You know?
Parts of me wonder if he was levitating at that moment or something. Like.
Yeah, he probably felt it in his toes, man. You know,
he lit up. Like you mentioned the Blues Brothers when he's like, the band, we gotta get the band.
Band.
And then the God
you had
rays,
to have the right band.
The
man.
God rays come down.
That's right.
You know? Yeah.
Yeah, gotta get the right band.
In college, what was going on with a music career or music pursuit?
You know, it was a basement. Like we were sort of like doing kind of. I don't know, I guess.
Did it move beyond that?
Well, it moved beyond. We started playing parties and stuff. I was living with some guys and we were playing again in a dusty old basement. You know, his ceiling right here. Don't jump. And, you know, asbestos probably falling all over my, you know.
That's paying dues.
Whatever. Paying your dues, man.
Yeah.
Oh, God. You know, but we had it all. And we got together some guys from, like, the college jazz band and that sort of thing. And kind of was just like a sort of a jammy, but blues band. We were a straight blues band. We were playing, like, some Allman Brothers stuff, but we were playing what the Allman Brothers, they were covering. You know, so old Elmore James stuff and, you know, Junior Wells and all that. Because I had some buddies that were into it as well. And I was super into it at that point. I was just getting into Chicago blues and really, really like I'm getting more nerdy about blues stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. And I was the lead player. You know, I wasn't singing or nothing. So that kind of got to a point where we would play bars and we'd play frat parties and stuff like that.
Yeah. How'd you feel about that?
I mean, I loved it. I loved playing. I loved, you know, it was fun we would get down there and just, again, sit and play for a long time. And that was a lot of fun. But I did want more. I wanted to do a lot more with it. I was hoping we would be playing more. And I would see other local bands and I'd be like, nah, we can do that. Let's do that. Let's try to do that, you know. And they weren't kind of into it. I mean, we were, but not really so much, you know.
There's always one. There's always one that's willing to take it further than everybody else.
And there was one dude that was like, you too good to show up or something, or he had another band, and you're like, I don't know, bass player today? It's like, all right, well, I guess we'll just, you know, sit around and take bong hits or something. Like, right. You know, what are you going to do?
What was more for you? What was more in your mind?
I mean, just the littlest thing, and just playing bars. You know, I was just like, let's go play some bars. Let's get out there. I had a taste of it.
What was the name of the band?
We didn't. I don't even know if we did. I think we were called like wherever the street was, Blues Band. Simple as that. It was like the Court Street Blues Band.
Okay.
St. Catherine Blues Band. It was like whoever fucking street we're on. We're like, just add Blues Band at the end of it.
You're making me look bad because I talked about your artistic direction earlier on, and you're like, well, we forgot to name the fucking band.
Name the band, bro. No, man. We just strictly wanted to be like, you know. Or it was somebody's name blues band, like Paul Butterfield Blues Band kind of thing. Because we really were just a blues. I was trying to be in a blues band. I wanted to play that like searing stuff, and that's always what I've been into. I mean, it was fun. We played some stuff, and but that's kind of where it stopped. You know, pretty much.
It plateaued, or it quit.
It plateaued for a minute, and then it sort of just like after the year was over, I actually left college and went to Europe for a semester, so that stopped that. And then after that, I went to a work study, and that's when I moved to New York City. That's the next chapter.
Gotcha.
And I was in New York City for 15 years. Then I moved here.
That had to be incredibly satisfying, though. Moving to New York City when you're in the
dude.
pursuit of, you just wanted to play on stage at bars.
I did,
like,
man.
bam,
That's all I wanted
it
to do. That's all I wanted to do, man. We get down there and do it. I mean, I was fortunate enough that I had this graphic design, fallback career, and
Sure.
I got this really cool internship down there, like work study program. And suddenly I'm in Manhattan, and like it was wild. And I started, trying to find bands and playing.
This is when, what time?
Early 2000s, like 2002, something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, early 2000s. So, I just try to find players through friends or whatever, and we get rehearsal spaces and go and try to do stuff. That's when I started writing my own music.
Okay.
And it was really like blues rock kind of stuff. Very heavy on like Black Keys sort of style. They were huge. I mean, they still are, but that's when they came out.
Right.
And I remember when they came out, I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Damn. I was into it. And obviously, like, Jack White, big fan of that. And so that was really influential for me. And there was a lot of stuff. I lived downtown, and there was a lot of little places you could play. So
Yeah.
I just kind of was sneaking in, playing little, punk rock stuff. And punk blues kind of stuff like that.
Now you mentioned Jack White. You also previously said that you weren't really into the technical aspect of playing. So the types of music that you were writing at that time, was it kind of stripped down to its essence? Because I mean, both of those things speak of that,
Very, very stripped down stuff, you know. But I still try to add a little something to it. I'm like I also really love singer-songwriter music. John Prine and Tom Waits is a huge influence on me.
Sure.
Leonard Cohen, Paul Simon too. Like, I still love that lyrical thing, and so I was trying to write lyrics, trying to figure it out how to do it, and but it was mostly kind of like just fun, simple, kind of dirty blues lyrics.
Yeah.
And that's all that was. And
did you have anything to have the blues about at the time? Did you draw from?
I mean, yeah, a lot of breakups and lost.
There you go.
Marriages. I wasn't married, but I almost was. And some psychological stuff. But I was pretty much a happy dude, so it was more like I wanted people to dance. I still do. I still make music for people to dance. I think blues is for dancing.
Yeah.
I think if you play the blues, you should make the audience dance. Like I mean, as much as I have a lot of respect for people who can get up there and just sear and like go crazy and play as fast as they can. And you have to look at the crowd; they're all like just looking at them. I want people to be moving. I think it should be moving. That's why I moved to New Orleans. Like, 'cause people move, and I mean, you should be moving when you play the blues. I think.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's time for the other stuff, but my sort of stuff that I, was into is just have people having fun and like either at a bar, boozing or whatever they're doing. But at least it was uppity, and it was that. It wasn't. So I was never really into that like searing kind of playing.
Yeah.
I respect it, but wasn't my style.
Now, and his name will come up again later on, but I was talking to Dean Zucchero, and he was talking about.
Yeah.
He was talking about New York. It might have been Manhattan, near the East Village, whatever.
Yeah, it was East Village too.
So he preceded you slightly.
Yeah.
And he talked about a change in administration and a change in the kind of overhead that venues were having to deal with as a result of not indirectly a change in administration, but a few things. So when you were coming into this, it seems as though you were experiencing that bottleneck as well, where the number of venues are decreasing. Did you know any other time? Did it not occur to you that this is kind of a desperate time, if you want to call it that?
Well, to me though, I started out in Manhattan, and that was happening. But what was also happening was across the river in Brooklyn was booming. Mm-hmm. That was Williamsburg was booming, And there was a ton of bands that came out of that situation, but that's where we went. So we went across the river, took the L train, and it was all rehearsal spaces, and everybody's in a band, and there was plenty of people you could meet at the local bar. So I started playing over there. And so over there, those venues were real underground and, not fancy at all. And they hadn't really been, the eye wasn't on them yet for like the big label stuff, but all these small labels were over there putting up venues. So, and a lot of bands were playing. There's a lot of house shows and stuff like that, almost DIY, but there'd be a ton of people in there. You know what I mean? And so I got into that situation a little bit. But I still lived in Manhattan, and there were some places I would play all the time. But I think the stuff that maybe Dean's talking about is, the bigger blues clubs perhaps. And, there was a lot of that was just like, it was also hard to get into that because there's already people that have been doing it. It's hard to get your foot in those kind of places.
As a musician, you're saying?
As a musician.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So I went to Brooklyn, and that's where I started playing like more funky stuff and rhythm guitar, and just playing in little clubs over there because there was a ton of them popping up, and the kids were loving it. You anywhere you went, you'd have a crowd because everybody was out, and stuff like that.
Was this many different genres at one location, or each location kind of supported a select genre?
It was kind of all over the place,
Because the reason I ask is
a lot of indie rock stuff, but also there was definitely there was a couple of places that were heavy on blues that the bookers loved that, and bring us in. But yeah, it was mostly on that kind of tip for sure.
Yeah, I ask because it seems to me, I recall a time in the early 90s, throughout the 90s actually, where it just seemed like there were more meetings of the genres in one location. Maybe they were small festivals, or if you couldn't even call them a festival, they were so small.
Yeah.
But it would have these bands that wouldn't normally find themselves in the same room together, or wouldn't normally be able to play in front of each other's crowd because they're not of the same genre. I don't know how else to put it, but and I think that's healthy, and I wish there was more of it.
Yeah, man.
I'm sorry to feel like that kind of went away. So I was wondering if you experienced that as well up there.
I mean, you definitely did. There were times when there were different. It depended on the certain scene or whatever club it was. But there's this place called, it's still there, Rockwood Music Hall, and I would go there a lot. And they would have all sorts of different, every night would be different. It'd be like either just like piano jazz or indie rock or a punk band, a big giant funk band there. Right. And I would hang out there. I lived right around the corner. I hung out there a lot, and I would meet a lot of people there. Yeah. Different folks. And it was really cool. It was cool, and sometimes it was like snobbery up, as much as New York snobbery as you can imagine.
Was there any specific genre that seemed to attract the most snobs? I'm just curious.
Interesting. I don't know what I should say.
No trash talking, but just an observation.
It's hard to say. You know what it was? A lot of like the avant-garde downtown jazz players. They knew everything. They knew much more than whatever. Yeah. Those kind of guys. And I would go to those clubs. I love that shit too. I will watch anyone play, I love watching jazz music. I really do. To me, it's like watching it as like a cook. If I'm like I work at a burger joint and I'm the chef there, but I like to go watch sushi guys make sushi. Sure. That's how I kind of look at watching some of these jazz players, especially down here. It's just, and I admire them, but like not a lot of them are, but there was some of that kind of snobbery with some of those and they also had a lot of it was the guys that had a lot of success, and then they would be like, oh, what do you do? And they'd be like, oh, you guys, I'm playing this, and you're like, all right, fine, whatever. Yeah. So that sort of stuff. But overall, though, I think I met a lot of cool people that way, and then when I went to Brooklyn, I got into the kind of a little bit more of a folk scene, and there was this tiny little folk scene in Red Hook, Brooklyn, and it's still there. There's this place called the Jalopy Theater, and they're still doing it really strong, and they accepted me as a friend, and I would watch these guys play really old-timey music stuff, even older than the stuff I was playing. Okay. So I got in with them, and that was a nice scene, a nice kind of crowd. But New York is very cliquey, and it still is. Sure. It's just the way it is. Down here, it's very different, I feel. I feel I can meet anyone from any sort of, and just sit and chat, even if whatever about music or whatever, and it's easy,
Lucky for me
Easy.
today.
What's that?
I said lucky for me today, right?
Right.
I mean, glad you feel it.
Yeah,
it's easy. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
So what was the genesis for the move here?
Man, I don't know. I was working at a lot of these publishing houses. I work as a print designer, and I have since college. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to afford New York. It was too expensive. That's basically it.
Told, yeah.
We just I was living with my now wife, and we lived in this little spot in Brooklyn, and we loved it. But it just didn't see anything. I had enough of the cold. I grew up in it, I just had enough. And also, we started coming down here, mostly to go to Jazz Fest. I had some gigs down here with some friends that were blah, blah, blah. And I sort of knew some folks in the music scene. But more or less, it was just, we came down here, and I first came down here on a road trip, and I fell in love with it. And it was post-Katrina, 2007.
Yeah.
And I saw it, and I saw it for all it was. I mean, I really fell for it. I really loved it.
Is it a popular, I guess, migrational destination? Do you find more and more people?
Certain people, and I do. There's certain people in New York that have made the trek and have been and like it. But and I know you hear a lot about. I meet a lot of people from that area.
Yeah.
But from Brooklyn or stuff like that, I know a couple guys that came down and are playing music here, and same as me. But yeah, I didn't think of it that more. I just we kind of just picked a spot. It was like I didn't really want to. It's just where we saw ourselves, and also we both loved it. So it was kind of me and my partner, my wife, just loved it. That was it, really. I mean, we loved the food, we loved the people. We liked the bars. We enjoyed that. We enjoyed that nightlife, and so that was a part of it. And it was like, all right, let's go and check it out. Go for a year, and now it's been 10 years.
Yeah. Has it accelerated your music career?
Oh, absolutely. It's been everything. I wasn't writing like this then back then. I came down here for that too as well. All right, if I'm gonna come down here, I'm gonna go for it. And I really did. I came down. I went to Royal Street and busked. Met some people through that. I kept doing that, and I finally found some good people. I got lucky at meeting some really great players. Started playing with them. Got a gig on Frenchman. Did that for years. Gig in the Quarter. Did that for years, and I'm still doing that. I'll gig anywhere in the city. I like to broaden my horizons. Uptown, Bywater, Frenchman, everywhere.
Sure.
I'm trying to get out of town more now. Trying to get. That's kind of the next thing is to get on the road, do more regional shows.
Really?
Yeah, get up Mississippi a lot. I'm playing a lot of that music, and I've played in Mississippi before and played in Memphis, Nashville. I'd like to do that more. I just want to keep that going. Where I can have this home base and play, once a week or whatever it is, but also get on the road is really the most important thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have an album that's about to come out.
Yeah, that's right. The record.
Has that been, I guess, somewhat of the motivation for the desire to travel?
Yeah,
or is
absolutely.
that something that you've enjoyed in the past and that you want to revisit? Like, what's really getting you back on the road?
Well, that definitely is. I mean, that was the whole. I wanted to make a record, but one because I wrote a bunch of songs finally, and I finally got them to a point where I was ready to record them, and but yeah, the whole point of the thing is to get me more work, in my head,
course. Yeah.
For anyone it is, but that's something to promote would be great, and I do a lot of travel too. I go to Europe a lot. My wife's company is who she works for. She's always on the road. She's on the road now. So I try to, I played in Belgium before, played in France, played in Ireland. And I want to bring that, I want to do that a lot more. And having more original music is helpful. And also I play a lot of, they love American blues over there.
So I'm told.
It's a great fan base, and so I can kind of bring it there and sort of be like, I hate this. I'm not a big fan of this word, but a culture bearer. I don't consider myself
ambassador.
that. That's what they. Yeah, that kind of thing. I've been called that, and I'm like, oh, really that.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
Whatever though. I go over there and play blues, and I have a little show where I talk about whoever made the song, and who they're from, and I play a lot of Louisiana blues.
That's nice.
A lot of players are from Louisiana or from New Orleans for sure, and so I like to promote that. It promotes the city, and I feel like the city's given me a lot, and I love it. And so the least I can do is, if I go anywhere, is give props to it, and
sure.
And the audiences love it. And I play, fun little places and some festivals. Well, yeah, having this record and having a label now with my friend and producer and partner Dean Zucchero. Two of us want to get on the road. We were in Australia last year. We're going to go back, and we had some good reception there.
Mm-hmm. And so, this is sticking with this format where you talk about the songs that you're covering.
I always try to do that. If it's a full bar and everybody's not listening, I'm not going to do it. But I do it I try to bring that to the show as much as possible. But the more original songs you have, then you talk about your own stuff and your own experience. And I think audiences really like that. So the reason for the record, and I'm just really happy how it came out. We had a lot of really phenomenal players on it from New Orleans and Louisiana.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to take it out, and get on the radio with it and sell it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You strike me as maybe self-critical. Self-critical. How long were you sitting on these tracks? How long did it take for you to say, they're done?
I'm self-critical, but I ain't a what do they call it, perfectionist at all means. I needed a little push to get them done, and I had some help. Dean helped me with the producing and all that, but I pushed myself to get them done. Like, all right, let's get these done. Get them, So I was, but also when it came to time to record them, I was like, let's just go. I mean, we just did it, we did it it's a live band, and then we added players to it. So like the main tracks are live, so we didn't nitpick that stuff. But to write it, it took me, there was also a big giant pandemic in the middle of it. I started writing these songs in 2020 and finished them in 2022.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it was that too. So it took a while, but also I had some patience with it to make sure it got out right. I didn't want to just put it out, just say, hey, I wanted to have some. I wanted to put some stuff into it, invest in it, I guess.
Sure. Sure. Was there any trepidation when it came to finding the right players? Because you talked earlier on in this interview about kind of having a rotating roster.
Yep.
What kind of hurdles does that present for someone with original music that wants to make sure it's done right?
Yeah, it does. But at the same time that I have that, I also have, some players that I've played with a lot, and Dean is one of them, and the drummer Mike Barris, who's a phenomenal Cajun drummer and rock drummer, and he's very well known, and just overall great player, great musician, great guy. And those guys have been playing with a lot, throughout the years. So so I would road test the songs with them and all that. So when I got into the studio, Dean and I have been playing a lot. So those were that was one tight unit that I felt comfortable.
Yeah.
They were exactly who I thought, especially with Dean producing the thing. I was like, well, we gotta get Mike, So that was it.
Yeah. Well, it was.
And then all the others came together just through either guys that Dean knew or I knew and have played with, and it was awesome. It was just all big. Yeah, it was a really fun. There was no bad days. It really wasn't, and the record took a while, but I think within a month we had all the tracks, the basic stuff.
Okay.
And then the other stuff that took another, as long as, but even that was. It was fun. It was a nice experience. We recorded at River Shack Studios with the great Jake Eckert. He was, as people know, from the New Orleans Suspects, and he was brilliant at it, and he really lended a lot to the record as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm glad it was a natural transition for you.
It was,
felt
man.
natural
Yeah, it was.
working with those guys.
Yeah, I guess the way I kind of said that before is I was just sort of like a journeyman. I hired random people. But no, I have a crew. I have like two different crews that, you know, I work with, and I have for the past like 10 years now, almost 10 years. But yeah, I guess the point I was making is it's very common to, you know, when people are busy, you hire someone else and that kind of stuff, you know. But yeah, it was a no brainer to bring that crew in, and that went down really well, and everything in the studio was great. I loved everything. I was just like, and I thought I would be like, oh no, but everything we got back, I'm really, this is awesome, you know. Yeah. Dean had to roll me. He just wrote me in. Like, all right, now we gotta edit this and all that stuff. But, yeah.
Was there anything that really proved challenging to you? I mean, this is. I mean, you have to please tell them and me.
Yeah.
You know, your not level of experience, but time put into the recording process. I mean, you said you released an EP, and other than that, you hadn't recorded anything.
No,
so I mean, this was still a fairly
new situation.
Right.
I mean, I did a lot of studio stuff in New York, but I was always just kind of on the side, not on the. You know, I was the rhythm guy, and you know, and singing too. But so I you know, I had a lot of experience with it, but not so much the technical stuff. And
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was. Yeah, I mean, it was comfortable to a point. The vocals were, you know, I thought I had trouble with that, but then again, we kind of nailed it, and you know, but no one likes how they sound. No one can. I don't think, like vocally, but I don't know. That was probably the most challenging thing for me, was hitting that, and but most of it I already had in my head. These songs I've been working on so long, I knew what they wanted to sound like. I knew that.
You had a very specific vision. I mean, that could be a credit and a deficit at the same
absolutely,
time.
man. Yeah, but also when someone would come in, they'd bring something different to it, and you're like, wow, that's super cool. We got to keep that.
Yeah, well, you got an open mind though. That really helps.
Yeah, I had to. It was for me. It was exciting. Studio is exciting, you know, and I want to do more of it as well. Absolutely.
You so tell them the date and the name of the album. Where they can find
the name of the record is called Stone Cold Hands, and it is out March 8th, 2024.
What are we looking at? How many tracks?
We are looking at 10 tracks, all originals, save for one. I do a Jimmy Reed song called High and Lonesome. Okay. Yeah. Cool. But it's original arrangement, I guess I could say. That's kind of the way around. The lyrics are his, but the original arrangement is mine, and I kind of like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
And you're evidently serious about touring on the heels of this.
Yeah, release, man. Yeah. So I'm booking. If anyone wants, you know, check out Sean Riley Music on Instagram and SeanRileyandTheWater.com. So try to book a regional tour up through, you know, Alabama, Tennessee, back through Mississippi. Sure. Like that. Yeah. All right. Trying to get it working. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your time, bud.
David, thanks a lot, man. Great to meet you, bud. All right. Cheers.